Hey, before we get into the episode, I just want to tell you about my free astrology newsletter called the Starzologer. It comes out every Sunday. It's of a lot of interest for astrologers. I explore cosmic currents moving through the ever-changing skies. Most weeks I explore what's coming up in the week and also share some astrology sticky bits and throw in some ideas about buzzing around. You also get stretched with my Extend Yourself sections. So this newsletter is for aspiring astrologers or anyone who's trying to up their astrological knowledge. It's totally free and you can sign up at starzology.com/newsletter. Now let's get into the show. Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I'm your host, Alison Price, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Arwynnne O'Neill.
Hello, Alison. It's great to be here again.
Thanks so much to join me again. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about medical astrology.
Yeah.
So this was a question that we got from one of our listeners, Sarah, and she's asked us to do a little bit about medical astrology. And so that's why we're doing it.
Yeah, I love this because when I did a bit of a search back when I did the episode with Katya about her acupuncture practice, I found it very difficult to find a really reputable source for information about medical astrology, and which isn't to say, I mean, I'm sure it's out there, but yeah, I found a lot of the sources were sort of old and contradictory, and
Yes.
they had weird terminology.
Well, they had the diseases we've got rid of, right?
Well, exactly, yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah, so medical astrology is basically talking about, illnesses you may get and all of this sort of thing. But this is one of the consultations that I don't do. I don't do health consultations because it's health. To be honest, I'm not that strong on health, and I don't really want to talk about particular diseases because this is more a topic for anyone who's a nurse or a doctor or a healthcare professional and likes astrology. Then you can definitely bring your knowledge in.
Right, or acupuncture or any kind of healing art.
Yes, so I had a student last year who was a phlebotomist, who's someone who actually draws blood from people, and that's her job in a hospital. And this would be just up her street because she knows about this and that and diseases and what have you. So this is going to be a general approach to where do you go looking for your health issues and what are you likely to see within a chart.
Yeah, excellent.
And first up, I have to give a disclaimer.
Okay.
Because my lawyer told me to, that I'm not a healthcare expert, and any health concerns you have should always be addressed with your qualified healthcare professional.
100%. Yes.
So there we have it.
Yeah.
So in general, what we're going to be looking at is that we've several sections here. We're going to be talking about the discomfiture, the signs, the houses, and then maybe the planets if we've got time.
And would you mind defining discomfiture?
Yes, so decomfiture, which is a very old-fashioned word, which is great, and you always get it in astrology crosswords, is a chart that they used to do back in the day, and it's the chart when you took to your bed with an illness.
Oh, so it's like the horary chart of illness.
Yes, so it's the time when because decomfiture is Latin for decumbere, which means to lie down, and it's the time that back in the day, if you caught some ghastly disease while you were ploughing the fields and you actually went to lie down, they would take that time. Yes, so it's definitely a horary chart, but it was called, and it still is called, a decomfiture chart, that when you lie down, you were recumbent in your bed.
Yeah.
And what was the time you finally gave up fighting the flu and you flopped into bed?
You left the fields unplowed and went took to your bed.
Yeah, 400 killed children and a crop in the field. So the day you finally lie down in your bed, that is the chart that you would cast to say, how is this illness going to progress?
Nice. Cool.
Yeah, so it's very much a diagnostic tool. And if you're doing health astrology, which I don't do, but you would definitely cast that and say, well, when did she finally give up the ghost and went and lay in her bed? Because you fight the flu or whatever it is, or you fight whatever disease you have. And finally, you have to say, I've got to lie down. Yeah. And that's the time you would cast the chart. Yeah, so it's kind of one of those old-fashioned words. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. Cool.
So when we're looking at astrology, we want to, there are several health houses that you can look at in a chart. And there are a few. And of course, there is the main one. So let's talk about that first. So the main health house is your 6th house.
Yes.
You know this, right?
Close to my heart. I'm a Virgo, so that's the Virgo house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is, the sixth house generally indicates illnesses that you're going to recover from.
Yeah.
So if you've got planets in the sixth house, they are likely to indicate the type of illnesses you're likely to get in your life. And if you don't have planets there, you want to look at the sign on the cusp of the sixth house to determine what the ruler is. And that planet will give indications to what type of illnesses you're likely to have. So I don't know off the top of your head if you know what your sixth house looks like, Arwynnne.
I have Chiron in the sixth house.
Okay.
And I have Aries on the cusp of the sixth house.
There you go. So your chironic illnesses, we'll get to that.
Yeah. Illnesses that you recover from and then can use to heal others, I would
Probably. You will heal. So you've got your sixth house. That's your health house. It's your main health house.
Yeah.
And then we have the 12th house, which is directly opposite. Now, this is your critical illnesses. And these are illnesses that will kill you if you don't take medication and may still will kill you.
Right.
But if you have, and for examples, what I'm using here is things like malaria, Ebola, and these nasty things, and even COVID-19 these days. If you just caught it, you're likely to die. But if you have a condition where you have to take medication every single day of your life, that is a 12th house illness.
Right.
And if you didn't take the medication, it would basically take you down.
Yeah. So this isn't like the kind of medications that one would take for, say, ADD or
I don't know what that
mood
is.
disorders, or where someone is taking, let's say, Ritalin or Adderall every day, or this isn't
it's still critical illness.
Yeah, but it's not going to kill you.
Is it not? Okay. But things like diabetes, if you have to have insulin,
that is a 12th house illness.
Yeah. So when they say this is a critical illness, then it's 12th house. Whereas the sixth house illnesses are things like when you catch the flu, when you catch chicken pox, and we all recover these days. We didn't used to.
Yes.
Back in the day, you would die.
Right.
But now, of course, we don't.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you've got a broken ankle or something, that is a sixth house thing. It's not a 12th house thing.
No, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Do you have anything in the sixth house?
No.
Yeah.
And I've got nothing in the 12th house, but that doesn't mean I don't get ill, because I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so there are your two main health houses you would be looking at if you want to talk about health. And then the third health house that you would want to look at is the first house, because this is the house of your vitality. It's your life vitality. Mm-hmm. How well would you bounce back from whatever malaise you have? Will you be able to bounce back? Have you got the stamina to get out of that bed? Or are you going to languish there because you think, oh my God, I'm so ill?
Right.
Or what's your vitality like? Are you saying, I've got to get up, I've got to go and do something? Because it's to do with your body.
That is fascinating because, and this is one of those, like, I'm going to go off on a tiny bit of a tangent.
Yeah. Well, we expect nothing less of you, Arwynnne.
If you're playing at home, take a drink. But my partner, Roger, has the Sun and Mercury and also Neptune in the first house in Scorpio. And I'm always making fun of him and saying that he's like Wolverine. He's got this mutant healing factor. He will get quote unquote sick and it'll last for like half a day. And then he's over it. He's never caught COVID. Even though he's worked in hospitality, he's almost every single friend of ours has had it multiple times.
Yes, I have, yeah.
And people he's worked and played hockey with and sat at the bar with, like in very close. He's not like a standoffish, arm's length kind of guy. Like if you know him for like 20 minutes, you will get a hug. He's never had COVID. And so when he gets sick, I keep a distance from him as much as I possibly can because, you don't want to get it. It's madness. I don't want to. Yeah, exactly. I usually do because we live together and whatnot, but
he says, doesn't he?
He heals so quickly. It's ridiculous.
He says health is life.
Yes. Fitness is life. All that.
Fitness is life.
Exactly.
This is the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, he had a broken nose from hockey. He had he had multiple hernias that he had surgery and then recovered very quickly from. And just,
you bounce back, your vitality. It's shown
vitality. It's crazy. House. Yeah. Whereas I've known other people who had a lot of things in the 12th house and not vital.
It lingers.
Yeah.
It lingers.
And it lingers, and you go to the doctor, and they're like, oh, this isn't working. Let's try this.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never be well. You'll just constantly have to switch up your medication.
This is it. Well, I too have 3 planets in the first house, and honestly, I haven't got time to be ill.
Yeah.
And no matter what they're throwing at me, I'm saying, no, I've got to get up and go and do something.
Yeah.
I've got to get out of this bed.
Yeah.
That's your vitality.
Yeah.
And it is shown through what your first house looks like with planets you got there and so on. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
And also in the first house, we have elective surgery.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yes. So this is where you choose to have surgery such as Botox, because there's a needle being injected, nose jobs, hair implants, liposuction, and facelifts, which are all basically elective cosmetic surgeries, or they're not life-threatening, you don't need them, but you choose to improve your appearance, which is first house.
For sure.
So all of those elective surgeries are shown in the first house too.
Yeah, and I don't have anything in the first house, but I remember when I did have my nose job, which was in 2016 or 15. It was,
I remember.
Yeah, and it was a long time coming, and I never looked back. I've been very, very delightedly happy ever since. But I did a chart for the day of the surgery, for the hour of the surgery, and Venus was right on the cusp of the ascendant. It was literally like it had just gone into the first house. And I was like,
and are you happy with the results?
So happy.
It's fabulous. It's fabulous.
Yeah,
it's fabulous. I mean, you look fabulous.
Just a little bit different. Just a little better.
I don't recall how you looked previously, but definitely you look fabulous.
I've got before and after pictures I can show you.
Oh, well, we don't need to go there, but this is...
No, I'm not going to post them, but...
But this is elective surgery, is where you pick and choose, and especially Botox and all of that sort of things. And this,
one day, I'm not adverse to it. But
and they do these eyebrows, what do they call that?
Oh, microblading.
Microblading, that is first house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the fourth house that I consider with health is the 8th house. Now, this is a different house because surgery occurs in the 8th house.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you get ill, but you don't need surgery, and sometimes you have surgery, but you're not really ill.
Yeah.
So any surgery where they cut you open is 8th house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you've had your appendix or your whatever, I mean, you could have a gazillion surgeries over your time, but anytime you've had surgery, it's definitely 8th house. This also includes anytime they stick a needle in you, that's also 8th house when they're penetrating. Mm-hmm. And then also transplants, organ transplants are 8th house things. So if you are an organ donor, and they're going to harvest your organs, that's an 8th house thing. And if you're receiving donations, that's also an 8th house thing. Because it's the resources of others that you're getting.
What type of planet placements would you associate with this?
Any planets in there, yeah. So if it's a blood transfusion, we would think it would be a Mars thing. Or if it's egg and sperm, it might be a moon thing or a sun thing or a Pluto thing. Yes, all of these are donations that we have. And then, of course, the 8th house is your house of death.
Right.
Not that we want to go there. This is why I don't do health astrology. But it tends to, the sign on the cusp and the ruler of that sign tends to show the nature of your death one day. So, So these are your kind of 4 houses I would be looking at for health issues in general. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you do consultations, do a lot of people ask you about medical things?
They do, but I don't offer them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, they're saying like, well, my husband was run over by a bus and he's been in hospital for 6 weeks. When's he coming out? Oh, I don't go there. I don't do those type of consultations. Yeah. Which is the question you get. Or Granny's been lingering. And I'm thinking, no, I don't want to go there. So, I leave it to the health people. They probably know way more about it than what I do. So when we get round to the signs, let's just have a look at some of the signs now.
Yeah.
And each of the signs rules a body part.
Yeah.
Would you like to run us through them?
Sure. So starting with Aries, no surprise here. It is the head. It's ruled by the ram. The ram, if you've ever seen a nature show at all, you will have seen the rams bashing each other in the head.
Yes.
Yeah. Fighting for dominance, which is an Aries thing for sure. It also rules the brain, clearly, and the eyes and the face.
Yeah.
So,
So That's Aries, because we start at the top and we're going to work our way down.
Absolutely.
Right? Mm-hmm.
And Taurus rules the throat, which is why there are so many amazing singers and people who have beautiful voices. Orson Welles comes to mind, who I love.
And wasn't Julie Andrews, she actually had vocal cord surgery and then she couldn't sing?
Oh, gosh.
You know,
Thanks.
the song The Sound of Music. And,
Sad.
Yes.
Yeah.
So sore throats and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Stiff necks and whatnot.
Neck, vocal cords, and the thyroid. So,
yes.
Taurus. Gemini rules the hands, the arms, the shoulders, the lungs, and the nervous system.
Yes.
Yeah, which it makes sense. I mean, lungs enable you to talk. Your hands are about your expression.
Yes.
Gemini is all about communication. It's about duality, so it's things you have two of.
Yeah.
And the nervous system is it's the communication system of the body.
The messenger.
Right?
The messengers.
It sends all
so the messenger channels in your body.
Yeah, the synapses and whatnot. And my gosh, I'm thinking of this amazing illustration by the wonderful visionary artist Alex Gray. He has this set of cards, and there's this whole section on the body, and it's split up into the bone structure, the muscle structure, the skin, which is just, the naked man and woman. And just like we sent out on Voyager, the outline, right? And for all mankind. And then the nervous system, which is just this beautiful system of electrical. It almost looks like the poles when you see the magnetic poles and the illustration of the Earth with these wonderful spirograph lines coming out from the poles and magnetically circling the Earth and creating our magnetosphere. Yeah.
Oh.
So the nervous system is that.
Great.
Yeah. Cancer rules the breasts, the stomach, and the pancreas. The pancreas is a little appreciated organ.
Well, you can't afford
to live without it.
Yes. I have to. Once I had this pain. I thought I was dying. I went to the hospital. Oh no, it's your pancreas. What the hell did you eat? And it was like, bar of chocolate and blah blah blah. They said, stop eating all that food.
Yeah, definitely one of those things that you don't appreciate until it's in pain.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And of course, it is the motherly sort of, the breast and the stomach, which is the sign of the mother and the maternal organs.
The nurturing,
Nurturing.
Yeah.
Leo rules the heart.
Yes.
And this is, I would say, obviously, but yeah, the heart. And the back, the spine, and the cardiovascular system.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've got to put my hand up to this. I've had back surgery in the past, and as a Leo, and dang, guys, avoid it if you can. That's all I want to say about that. Because I thought I was getting through life without it, but no, it came knocking at my door.
Ouch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we're at Virgo. That is me. Digestive system, intestines, and abdomen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I must tell you that my brother is a 5-planet Virgo.
Wow. More Virgo than me.
He's more Virgo than anybody I know. And when he was born, his intestines was not contained in his body, and he was born with the intestines outside. So they said, call the priest, which they did.
Oh my gosh.
And because they thought he wasn't going to make it through the night. And then they did some surgery on him and stuffed all it back in. And he's still going strong. We're pushing, 67 at this stage.
Dang.
And but so this is the digestive system, the 5-planet Virgo.
Wow.
But not only that, when he got to his first Saturn return, he got this pain. And he was always very thin, and he could never kind of keep his food down. If he got excited, he would kind of throw up something.
Gosh.
So anyway, he got this kind of pain and went to the doctor, and they said, no, there's kind of a blockage in the intestine.
No.
So Virgo.
Yeah.
So they said, we'll go in, we'll snip out a bit, and then you'll be back, take an hour, this and that. So he went in, and he ended up being in surgery for over 18 hours.
Oh, God.
And they cut him from the shoulder to the hip because all of the intestines that they'd stuffed back in at his birth had shoved all his organs up. So his appendix was behind his shoulder blade.
What?
And there was this great snarly push of all the organs inside. And it took the guy so long and a whole team of multiple doctors to put everything back in order, cut out the bit, sew the intestine together, and
They still had to cut out a bit after all.
Well, yes, because there was this kind of tight spot going on. And after that, I mean, it took him a long time to recover, but
bet.
after that, he finally could sort of put on a bit of weight because he was actually digesting his food. Prior to that, he was a bag of bones. You could always count his ribs, you know. And this is so Virgo.
I'm aghast.
I know. We were too. We were saying, really?
I had no idea that was even possible.
I know. Against all the odds, still going strong.
The human body is a marvel. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, you've just got to be near a doctor when you need one. I know.
Yeah, no kidding.
And this is Virgo digestion. Don't think it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's something.
Yeah.
So
exactly. And I don't know many Virgos who just don't give a damn what they eat. Most of them are pretty meticulous about, what goes into their bodies. So yeah, if you have any weird symptoms or can't keep anything down, like if you get excited and throw up, like a cat that I used to.
He always throwing up. He'd like have 2 beers. That was his limit. And then he'd come in and say, I'm not feeling well. And there was a washroom right there. My mother said, go right in there.
Oh, no.
And it was like a daily occurrence. It was just who he was. But after the second surgery, he was way better and put on some weight, finally put some meat on his bones. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
I know. Anyway, I digress. Yes.
That is unbelievably alarming. I mean,
what I'm saying is this is a survival story.
It really is. It's honestly, I feel like I'm watching one of those episodes of I Survived where, they start out with like the guy with the black background and he's just talking somberly to the camera or like looking into the 3/4 view and I felt a little pain and I thought nothing of it at first, but then
I got this twinge. Next thing you know,
intestines around the shoulder. What? God. Yeah.
So Libra.
It rules the kidneys and the renal system, which is just refreshingly simple after all that. Is it though?
Well, I suppose unless it hits you, I suppose so.
And oh my gosh, it's so interesting too that Libra is the sign of partnership.
Yes.
And kidneys are one of the few organs that you can safely and donate, yeah, and still live.
Yes.
You can share a set of kidneys.
Yes.
I mean, you can't donate a lung and survive, I don't think.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, they do lung transplants. I think the donor dies.
Yeah, that's not really
This is why I don't do health. I'm not that sure.
Yeah. Please, everyone, if you're not signed up as an organ donor, please sign up.
Well,
yeah.
I think we differ on that point. But anyway, that's that's a conversation for another day.
For sure, yeah. The renal system.
Yes.
It's about
tinkling. And, and who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
As I say, I don't know enough about health to say, well, have you got, what does it really mean? I don't know. Yeah.
You have to go number 1.
Yes.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's enough said about that.
Yes.
So, send the Virgo to the Leo. Scorpio. Obviously, the reproductive system.
Yes.
The eliminatory system, which would be number 2. And also sweating.
Yes.
And anything that you're purging, I suppose.
Vomiting. Yes.
Yeah.
It so is. It so is.
It's like the dog who eats something and then it disagrees with them and then they eat a bunch of grass to make themselves get sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Scorpio.
Channeling Virgo, Scorpio energy. And
eliminating toxins. Yeah.
And also the menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. But not the, I guess, obviously, the reproductive
the flow.
All of it. Yeah. I'm familiar with it.
Aunt Flo.
I knew you were going to say that.
Okay, moving on.
Okay. Sagittarius.
Yes.
Yeah, the liver, the hips, the thighs, the upper leg, and the femur.
Yeah.
The femur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we know someone who's had a hip surgery, don't we?
We do. And my mother
Sagittarius?
is a Sagittarius and has had both hips replaced.
Good heavens.
And and she's dancing again. She's swimming every day.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. She's bounced back 100%. And
good vitality, good first house.
Absolutely. Yes. And this is so funny because she went to medical school And she is a bit of a medical, I mean, she's a bit of a nerd in all of the fields. Like basically she wants to know a little bit about everything. She's got that Gemini rising. She's got, Sagittarius. She just wants to know all of it. And so when she went in for her first hip replacement surgery, they gave her a manual. Like she wanted to know all of the stuff. And they were like, cool. Nobody ever wants to know all the stuff. They just want it done. Right. And so they gave her this huge manual. I was like, oh my God, is that your homework? She's like, no, they just gave it to me. I'm like, okay. and then they also, she said she wanted to know how the procedure was going to go. And did they have any photos or whatever? And the lady was like, well, I mean, I can take your phone and take pictures if you want. And she's like, yes, please. And so she has photos, like high res, beautiful, like iPhone 14, like whatever is the nicest version that she has. And it's like crazy high res, beautiful photos. And also, I mean, I don't know if you've actually seen one of these artificial hips that they put in. They're beautiful. It's a crazy, beautiful, pointy. It's almost like just like a scepter, like the top of a scepter, like you'd see on like House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones or something like that. It's like this beautiful like metal titanium ball. And then this spike that just kind of like slots into the joint hole part. And they just take out the, ravaged old bone part. And then they just stick in this beautiful titanium ball and this point, and it just kind of goes, and it's just like shiny and gorgeous and metal, and you're better, stronger, fitter, faster.
Sagittarius. Hip replacement. There you go.
Amazing.
We're living proof.
Yeah.
And now she's still dancing. I mean, well done. Well done. Amazing.
She had a dance class this very day.
Yeah.
A few a week.
Amazing. Yes.
Amazing indeed. And Capricorn. So this is the knees, the bones, and the joints. So all of the joints and the bones.
Yeah. The whole, anything that's hard. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would that include nails, like fingernails?
I don't know. I think that would be more Gemini.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know why, but that made me think of Howard Hughes and how he at the end and he had this incredibly long talon nails. I believe he was also a Capricorn. Don't quote me on that, but
okay.
So Capricorn, knees, bones, joints.
Okay.
Yeah, all the hard stuff. Yeah. Aquarius.
Yes.
The ankles, the calves, the lower leg, and the circulatory system, which is not to be confused with the cardiovascular system. So that would be, instead of the arteries, I would think that's just all the veins and stuff. Yeah.
Again, I fumble in the dark with this, but
I'll ask my mother. She would know. She went to medical school. She had a medical coloring book when I was growing up. I was like, oh, that's so pretty.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, one of the first toys I had was the Visible Woman, which if you don't know what that is, it was a toy in the 70s, and I say toy in quotes, but it was a clear plastic body of a woman that almost Barbie doll size, which is weird. Not the same proportions, clearly, because it was realistic proportions, and it had all the organs that you could put in like a puzzle.
Oh,
and it
really?
had two different versions. It had the pregnant and the non-pregnant version. I know. And this is probably what maybe subtly poisoned me against wanting to have children, because the idea of like this, all of the organs get squished out to the edges, and there's like this baby.
Yep.
That's, and you're like, yep, been there, done that 4 times. But in the
10 centimeter head coming through.
Right. Oh. But in the plastic, the Visible Woman, there's like this, fetus. And then there's all the organs that go around it, which is a whole different version of the organs. And they're all flattened and just teeny. And the stomach and all of the other things are just like squished out to the edges of the
this is why they're tinkling every 5 minutes.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The body cavity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's not this. This is the circulatory system, which is just veins.
Yes.
So, if you have a bad circulatory system, maybe afflicted Aquarius or something like that, people whose hands are always cold. I don't know. I'm not going to, go too far into that, but my hands are frequently cold. I like to say they're not cold, they're refreshing. That's what I say.
I see. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like when I put my hands on my partner and he says, oh, your hands are so cold, I'm like, no, they're not cold, they're refreshing.
Okay.
Yeah. So you feel free to use that anyway if anyone else has that issue. Pisces.
Yeah.
Feet.
Feet.
Lymphatic system.
Yes. So it's the feet. So we go from the first sign of the zodiac all the way down
to the
to the last sign of the zodiac.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting how that actually works. And
Really?
clearly there are more bits and bobs in a body that we haven't mentioned because, as I say, that if you're a healthcare person, go for it,
Yeah, and it's so funny when we were doing the our acupuncture episode, and if you've listened to that episode and you were like, I don't know that was really an astrology episode. Well, that's true, and that is fair enough. But we did our best, and it came from a question that someone had actually asked. They were like, do the 12 meridians in acupuncture map to the 12 astrological signs? There's 12 and 12. And it turns out, no, they absolutely don't. It's been tried, and we tried, and I did a lot of research, and I could not find anyone reliably actually mapping them all properly, probably because it is a Chinese medicine, Chinese traditional medicine. There's a whole different set of the zodiac, and they map them quite well to those signs. But the Western astrology signs do not map cleanly to the.
But I know with reflexology, when or even palmistry, when you've got the mound of Venus, and
for sure,
each of your fingers is a different planet, and all of those
things. And
yeah.
it's really neat to look at all those things and go, well, that doesn't match. Perfectly.
Yes.
But it's just like when we talked about the generations and the outer planets and all that stuff. They don't map perfectly, but it's really neat to see where they do correspond. And there's a lot of points where they agree. Yeah. And then there's some wiggle room.
Yeah. It's super interesting. So whilst we've spoken about the houses and the signs, if we just look at the planets, whilst they have many areas that are just linked directly to the signs they rule, but they also have some other things I just want to chat about for a bit.
Let's do that.
So let's start with the sun. So as we said earlier, we're saying it now, the sun rules the heart, and it's always the heart of the matter, and the backaches and back pain. So if you're getting that lower back pain, it's a sun thing. And diseases of the sun are going to be weak hearts, heart attacks, heart transplants, fibrillation, which is something or other, slip discs, yes, I'll put my hand up to that, and of course spinal surgery, which I totally go with. So these are diseases that tend to relate to the sun.
Yeah.
So if you had the sun in one of your health houses, this is more likely to come through. And then the moon, as a planet, is ruling bodily fluids, like the tides of the earth. So it's ruling the fluids. And the first up is your tears, because when you get upset, I'm going to be crying. And it's an emotional. So your tears are the moon, the lymph system, and the monthly cycle as well. So we've got that.
Oh my gosh! So that's fascinating, because that's all the water signs, right? Lymphatic system is Pisces. Cancer and
the fluids of the body, and you can keep going. There are many more fluids that I'm not going to mention here.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, of course, breast milk itself, and the letdown reflex, and breastfeeding itself, and the struggle to feed breastfeeding, which I do know of, is a moon thing too. So some diseases of the moon are anything that is a swelling, where you've got fluid building up somewhere, stomach aches, breast reduction and augmentations, I should say. Surgeries, breast cancer, the lactation, letdown reflex, fluid retention, and pigeon chest. I don't know if we still have those anymore, but it's when your chest is actually down and you've got this pigeon chest where you want to have an open chest, but
is that like a rib cage?
Yes,
issue?
yes, but it's the chest area.
Yeah,
so
like
your front
chest.
bones here that join the bits to that, which I don't know the names of, is sunken.
Yeah, the
called a
cartilage
pigeon
that
chest.
connects the.
Yeah,
I actually dislocated one of those once. Not my rib, but I just very, very slightly, and it was from carrying groceries of all things. I went to my massage therapist after massage. I say that as though it was a friend who I'd go for.
Go for a massage therapist.
Right.
That's good.
Right, but I was like, my back has hurt ever since whatever, and she's like, were you carrying something heavy? And I was like, yeah, I came home with 55 pounds worth of groceries and backpack. And she's like, well, don't do that again. You've dislocated, but you've done something to your rib.
Yes.
And she didn't say dislocated, but it was not right.
Nice. Not pleasant. Yeah, so that's the chest area.
Yeah.
Yes.
Be careful with that.
Yeah. So then if we look at Mercury, which is the next one, so now we know the brain. So we know we did say that the brain was Aries because it's part of the head, but Mercury rules things you've got two of, which is hemispheres, so the left and right.
The right lobe and the left lobe.
Yeah, so one's to do with art and pictures, the other's to do with words. I'm never quite sure.
Oh, I know exactly about that.
Oh, tell us.
Yeah, so the right hemisphere is the holistic hemisphere. It's the supposedly artistic, but it also rules math and music, which are very, very connected. And the left brain left hemisphere is about literally just language. And language is such a huge, huge thing. And also visual cortex is such a massive part of the human functioning that entire left side is basically language. And they've done these amazing experiments, and this is another diversion, but it is so cool. If you don't know about the split brain experiments that they did with epilepsy patients back in the day, it was, 50s, 60s. Oh, they did so many great experimentation back then, which is like, wow, let's just try this, Yeah, but they basically, with severe epilepsy, like where they were just, riddled with seizures and couldn't actually function.
Yes.
They did this experimental procedure where they would actually split the hemispheres, like the corpus callosum that connects the hemispheres in the center. If you're squeamish, skip ahead a minute. But yeah, they actually, I'm not going to talk about how exactly they did this, but they just kind of divided the hemispheres, whatever, and it stopped the seizures, which was amazing. They thought, wow, this is incredible. But there were some bizarre side effects. And basically, it turns out that the hemispheres communicate in very weird ways. Like they're very independent. And because of that corpus callosum that connects the two, they communicate. But if you separate that, they almost function like two different brains.
Oh.
They literally see different things and they interpret those things totally differently. So they did this experiment where they put this divider between, like down the, the center of the face, the nose. And so one eye could see one thing and one eye could see another thing in this box that they were facing forward. Mm. And they had like a pen in each hand kind of thing so that they could either draw or write what they were seeing. And the right hand would draw something totally different from what the left hand would draw versus write. Anyway, They would interpret completely differently what they were seeing. And they would see the same picture, but the right hand would think it was one thing and the left hand would think it was something totally different because they were interpreting from the other side of the brain.
Gosh.
And then the left brain rules your speech, right? So the right hand would draw something and then the left hemisphere of the brain is what interprets. It's it's the logic of your brain. And it would actually make up a story that was not even true about why it drew something that it couldn't even see. So left hemisphere is separate. It can't actually even see what is being drawn, and it would try to interpret and just make up a story that it would totally like BS the story, which is crazy. Wow. I would definitely recommend, I'm not doing it justice, but if you just search split brain experiments on YouTube, highly recommend watching any kind of documentary you can on it because it is fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, it's Mercury all the way, isn't it?
It is, and that's one of those things that it just thrills my little heart to no end to think that these things are possible because the brain is so complicated and weird. Yes. It's so much weirder than we know.
Yeah, it's the most interesting thing.
It really is, yeah.
And then Mercury also rules the hand signals and sign language.
Yeah.
So although it's very connected to a Gemini, it's definitely to do with that. And any handiwork or handicrafts that you can do, if you're doing, art or carving or what have you.
Yeah,
also the arms, shoulders and elbows, and of course the lungs to do with aspiration, breathing. Yeah. So you've got that too.
Yeah.
So Mercury-related diseases tends to be things like Alzheimer's, dementia and tremors, or arthritis in the hands. Mercury also rules lungs diseases such as bronchitis, tuberculosis, emphysema, and collapsed lungs. That is all Mercury.
Yeah.
So...
I had bronchitis once.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, but these other things that go on, each planet tends to have different rulerships over these things. Mm. And then if we move on to Venus, so it's definitely the vocal cord, which we did speak about through Taurus, and sugar. So this is where we get things like your glucose measurement, and of course this brings in diabetes. Yeah. This is an actual disease of Venus.
Yeah.
But it typically also rules stiff necks, throat infections, loss of voice, which I sometimes get. We can't record this damn podcast. And also kidney failure and dialysis because of its relationship to Libra.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And then if we look at Mars as a planet, and it actually then rules the blood.
Yeah.
So it's the blood pressure and all blood-related diseases, which I don't know what the names are of, but anyway, those ones. And also fevers and sweating. That is Mars.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
So our main Martian diseases are blood and fever related, things like scarlet fever, which I don't think anyone gets anymore, but because we're immunized against it, hypertension, infections from tattoos are Mars related because you're doing the whole thing. You're sticking it in and you're adding an infection on top of it all. Yeah. So that's Mars. And then the planet Jupiter, we definitely spoke about liver, which is the life-giving organ. Live. Is that what you need it to live? Yeah.
I never thought of that.
Yeah. And the female, which is, of course, walking and your journey in life, your life's path, and all of that is through Jupiter. So diseases related to Jupiter are things like liver failure, hip replacements, we spoke about that, and all growths that you may get. So they're growths.
That makes sense.
They could be anywhere because Jupiter rules growth, and it will growths and probably tumors on top of it. But anything that's growing is going to be Jupiter related.
And there can be benign tumors. There can be just random growths that.
Well, they happen, right? They happen. These things happen.
Yeah.
And then we've got Saturn, which is basically straight up the knees, no problem there. And the bones. So it's the bones and the skeleton, and the teeth, dentures. Orthodontics and fillings, and anything to do with the dentist is actually a Saturn thing.
Yep.
And stones, so kidney stones, which I believe are excruciatingly painful.
I've heard that,
Gallstones, I don't know, and there probably are other stones, but any stones is a Saturn thing.
Yeah.
And Saturn also rules the skin, which is the limit of the body.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, because of limitations. Yeah.
Yes. 100%. So diseases that are related to Saturn come down to things like pale skin or acne. That's Saturn. And also knee pain, which I have been aware of since my second Saturn return. Knee pain, hello. And knee replacements, which I haven't got to yet. But I don't know anyone who's had a knee replacement, but that's Saturn. Whereas your hip replacement is Jupiter, you see.
Yeah. It's interesting how hip replacement is so much more common. And
is it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Well, people are saying. I mean, I know in England they're queuing up to get new knees and things. They say.
Yeah. There's the medical.
They're clever, aren't they?
They're so clever, and it's just getting better and better, like so quickly. And it wasn't very long ago that would have been a major operation, but now hip surgery is just like, oh, it's no big deal, you know.
Really, your mother came through with flying colours.
Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of a complication with the second one, to be completely fair.
But she's dancing.
Yeah, she's dancing again, and it's not been that long. It was a year ago, like a year and a bit.
Yeah.
She was in a wheelchair, and it was, for like a month or whatever, and not like confined to, she could walk.
Well, the last time I saw her, she was nimbly trotting around the place, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's amazing what they can do. It's amazing what they can do.
This is what I'm saying.
I know. Yeah. And then we get to Uranus, which rules, of course, the ankles. So any, sprains or twisted ankles, that's definitely a Uranian thing. Mm-hmm. But it also rules the synapses in the brain. So this is your microelectric sparks that makes you think. It's how you think, and it's how you build neural pathways in your brain through the electricity which Uranus rules. So that's very much to do with Uranus.
Yeah. So what would you think about not strokes necessarily, because that's a heart thing, but like when there's like a
blood clot in your brain,
like a misfiring in the
a misfiring,
it's not a tumor,
definitely,
but it's
yes.
it's like a.
Well, this is what you get with these drugs, not dopamine, that step up from that. What's it called with an F? Fentanyl.
Oh God!
It gives a full blown continuous burst, and that's
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So diseases of Uranus are going to be modern things, of course. COVID-19 springs to mind.
And sudden things.
Yeah. Unusual conditions. Anytime you're hooked up to a life support machine, that's plugged into the electricity, that's Uranus.
Yeah.
And this also includes not just at the end of life, but even babies who are in incubators.
Yeah.
That's a Uranus thing as well.
Right.
Yeah. So it comes to us all, in time.
Yeah.
We're not doing it every day, but that's a Uranus thing. And then Neptune, of course, rules the feet, toes, and the arches.
All the feet.
All the feet. So people who've got strong Neptunes, they're always having pedicures and they've got a million pairs of shoes.
Yeah.
And of course, Neptune rules drugs.
Yes. And alcohol.
And alcohol.
Yeah.
But any drugs you're taking, or tinctures, there's a word, drugs and actual medications that are prescribed, and then, of course, street drugs is all Neptune.
Yeah.
So if you're having a reaction to your drug, it's a Neptune thing.
Yeah.
And then diseases of Neptune are anything to do with the gases in the body.
Yeah.
I've got gas, or whatever they say, but it's gases building
They
up.
used to say in the romance novel era, the vapors.
Having a touch with the vapors, yes.
I always wondered what that was. It sounds so glamorous, but yet it probably
It's
wasn't.
fainting, yeah.
Yeah.
And then hallucinations, that's
Ooh,
Neptune
yeah.
too.
Did you ever watch House?
Oh, yes, twice.
Right? Everything had hallucination as a side effect. It's like, it starts out with like some crazy episode, or like, there was always a hallucination.
Always a hallucination. Well, this is Neptune, yeah? And then your boring old ingrown toenails, that's Neptune.
Yikes. Yeah.
So, yeah. And then just semi-finally, we've got Pluto, which is, of course, the reproductive system, sex and birth, all of that.
Yeah.
And, of course, the eliminatory system, purging unwanted.
Yeah.
So Plutonian diseases tend to be sexually transmitted diseases, like I've written here, syphilis and all the others that I don't want to even mention. But Pluto also...
You know who you are.
Yes, you know who you are. And Pluto rules post-operative infections, where they've cut you open and the bug got in, and we know about these. Then you've got to have 4 loads of antibiotics to kill it dead.
Yes.
So that's a Pluto disease too.
Also, I'm thinking zombification would totally be like Pluto.
Zombification.
If that were a real thing.
Wow.
God forbid.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would totally be a Pluto thing.
Yeah.
If you come back as a zombie, Pluto.
And then finally, I've got some thoughts on Chiron. Chiron is showing visible weaknesses.
Oh, interesting.
So this is what we can see when you look at somebody. So
Right.
this is people who are perhaps on crutches, and you see they're ill. They're using crutches, or anybody who happens to be in a wheelchair is visible to us.
Or like The Penguin. Like I've been watching The Penguin, which is such an amazing TV show. Colin Farrell, shout out. Gotta win some sort of award for that.
Okay.
With that limp.
Okay.
Yeah, the limp that makes him walk
The
like a penguin.
visible weakness.
The visible weakness.
Anyone who's got a colostomy bag, we have a friend recently who's been dealing with that.
Yeah.
And simple things, even if you're wearing spectacles or a hearing aid, these are chironic type things.
Yeah.
And the diseases of Chiron cover all open wounds. Stitches you have, weeping wounds, scar tissues, and any issues that weaken your constitution in general.
Yeah.
Because Chiron is the wounded healer. It's where your weakness
what
is.
doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Well, if you can survive the wound and the stitching and the pulling and the what have you.
Well, exactly.
So all of that tends to be chironic in nature.
Yeah. Which is an interesting, because scar tissue is actually tougher. It's stronger.
Once it closes.
Fibrously.
Yes.
The actual tissue is stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weirdly.
Yeah, going back to my brother who had this meter-long cut in his body, he wouldn't heal. It took over a year for this whole thing to sew together. He was just fighting on all fronts to get the wound to close. And once that closed, you can recover. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know why that made me think of those time-lapse videos they show of plants growing.
Yes.
If you can see a time, not that
Of
we
a
want
wound
to.
ear.
I know it's disgusting, but if you think about it, it's a miraculous. It's insane.
Yeah.
The body is capable of this crazy
Sewing itself together.
It's just I must. It's just thinking about all those cells, all those things that just marching into formation and no, we must fix this. Blah, blah, blah.
Well, even guys who come off a motorbike and they've got kind of these burns all the way down their body and the whole skin's been ripped off.
Yeah.
Those are the weeping wounds of Chiron, where you've just got to let the skin grow back. but it's oozing stuff, and that's Chiron. So, yeah.
Wear a helmet.
Wear a helmet. Okay, so we've gone through some introduction to medical astrology.
Yeah.
We've spoken about decature. We've spoken about the medical houses. We've spoken about the medical signs. We've spoken about the medical planets. And clearly there are more things in the body that we haven't mentioned that would be ruled by some planet or other. But we can't cover all of this at this stage.
Yeah. I mean, the body is very complicated.
Yeah. So if you're into medical, this would probably make way more sense to you. Sure. But it's a tricky thing, if people are ill, you've got to pick your battles with this sort of astrology. Yeah. So anyway, if you've got any questions surrounding this episode, please do email us at starzology@gmail.com, and make sure to sign up for our newsletter, which comes out every Sunday. Go to starzology.com/newsletter. And certainly do follow Arwynnne, and Arwynnne is at...
I am at mspink.net. That's mspink.net. And I talk about art, and I talk about books and movies and a bit of politics and a bit of sociology and a bit of history and some light popular science.
TVs and movies.
All the stuff, A little astrology as well.
Okay, and you can we invite you to text us if you have any questions that you'd like us to address. And you can text us if you go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. To the very top, there's a link there. You can link straight through and send us a text with your questions. Yeah. If you found value in this episode, please do consider sharing it with anybody who'd be interested. And do visit our blog at starzology.com. And we do have some astrological freebies at starzology.com/freebies.
Yeah.
So, Arwynnne, this has been an interesting conversation about medical astrology. As I say, it's not one I really do because, Yeah. But thank you so much for joining me, and it's been great having you.
It's been great to be here, and thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for getting this far through the episode. I just want to take a moment to tell you about the two main options of my astrology services. So the first one is coaching. If you are an aspiring astrologer, and by that I mean someone who's perhaps a hobbyist astrologer or someone who's learning astrology or a student, or you've got a few books and you've been doing it for a while, but perhaps you need a little bit of help to bring it all together, then maybe getting some astrological coaching from me would be the answer for you. The astrology coaching I offer is a 1-hour session on Zoom, and it's tailored to answer your particular questions. For example, if you have issues with natal chart readings, we can go there. Or if you're having problems working with your forecasting, we can go there. Or even basic astrology stuff, or even getting yourself organized for your astrology business. The idea is that astrological coaching will answer your particular questions. It's tailored specifically to you and where you are in your astrological journey. And I'm happy to help you out with some guidance about how you can get going, what to focus on, and what to dismiss. So that would be the astrological coaching for people trying to learn astrology. The second astrological service I offer is consultations. So this is for someone who perhaps doesn't know anything about astrology, but they just want to have their chart read or get their chart done. Call it what you will. So once more, this is a 1-hour consultation over Zoom. I will interpret your chart, tell you about the main features, tell you about where the energy is flowing, and all the rest of what is entailed in a thorough natal chart interpretation. I can also add in some forecasting in there too, bearing in mind we only have 1 hour. So just in summary, I've got coaching for people who want to learn astrology, and I've got consultations for those who want to get an astrology reading done. I'm Alison Price from Starzology.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.